Hello everyone, welcome to the channel, and the first ever video on the channel is going to be a Pokemon Nuzlocke of Pokemon Yellow, my very first Pokemon game and probably the first generation for a lot of Pokemon players. Now, everyone and their mother has done a Nuzlocke before. For those that don't know, the rule set's quite simple. You can only capture the first Pokemon on any route. If that Pokemon should happen to faint, it has to be released, resulting in the potential of game over should you run out of Pokemon and no longer be able to continue with the storyline. Speaking of storylines, Pokemon Yellow is unique in the series of Generation 1. It came out coinciding with the Pokemon anime, which a lot of Pokemon fans would have grown up with and might have been the first introductions before the games. It was personally one of my very first video games, and it was closely inspired after the anime, of course, allowing you to start with Pikachu as your starter, as opposed to the typical three starters in Red and Blue. To again tie in with the anime, where Ash Ketchum, the protagonist of the anime, started with a Pikachu. So, as you're seeing there, I'm going to start off by calling myself Roxas as my protagonist name. And of course, I can think of the, I suppose, rival to Roxas, for anyone that knows Kingdom Hearts lore, is of course his other half in a way. So we're going to call him Sora. Now, for this particular Nuzlocke, I wanted to make it slightly more interesting with slightly different rule sets. So I wanted to basically kind of help create an anime like through the video game itself. So I wanted to kind of give the main character of the series a bit more of a personality with more strict limitations. So for this playthrough, I put up a list of different negatives, whether it be maybe materialistic, where they have to spend a certain amount of money or have a certain amount of money every episode. Maybe they're afraid of the dark or afraid of caves or antisocial, or in this case, the first negative trait I got was afraid of the water, so hydrophobic, meaning we won't be able to capture any sort of water type via surfing or fishing or anything of that nature. And we won't be able to go on any water routes except for the absolute necessities of completing the game. So, yeah. And the other negative trait that I rolled for was basically competitive. So I'm going to have to face every single trainer in the game, um, and hopefully we can win. And that's kind of the idea of the challenge. Each kind of episode on the channel is going to have a sort of main goal or main kind of challenge to get through, and you can kind of randomly roll for them off like a list of a table um, every session or every episode, a bit like a D&D session. But basically, for the first episode, my main objective is to get um, our starter Pokemon and to capture two others. So hopefully we'll get to be able to explore two different routes and allow us to get two new members of our team to kind of end the episode. And yeah, so we will cut back to you guys when we have our starter in tow. So the after a brief bit of wandering, we journey into the grass where Professor Oak rescues us from this wild Pikachu that he promptly captures and then brings us back in order to gift us our starter Pokemon. And since we're kind of delving a lot into just the main character and starting off our Nuzlocke, it's important to kind of know a bit of a background as to like who Roxas is, why is he so competitive, why is he afraid of the water, things like that. And I guess, in terms of the competitive nature, it seems fairly handy enough the fact that Sora himself, our rival for the game, is quite competitive himself. We can see here that Oak is offering us a Pokemon on the table, and Sora is protesting so aggressively that he wishes to have his own Pokemon, so much so that when I try and pick up the Pokeball, I'm shoved, and Sora snatches the Pokemon away. And so we are then gifted our first Pokemon from Professor Oak, and this is where we'll roll the episode's title card. Pikaboo, I see you! So with our first Pokemon in tow, we are going to nickname Pikachu Pikaboo, because it literally jumps out of the grass to surprise us. And even though in the first generation they don't really have natures or anything, I rolled a dice again to randomly decide what kind of a personality and gender each Pokemon would have. So our Pikachu is female, and I rolled a friendly nature. So very kind of sociable, very much a Pokemon that likes to socialize and have lots of friends. So we will very much be getting Pikachu a bunch of companions for its party as we journey on our journey. And again, Sora being the typical guy that thinks he's way better and in fact wants to challenge us to a battle. So let's see how this goes. So we are throwing hands, and out comes Eevee as his starter Pokemon, and I go with Pikachu. Starting out with a Thunder Shock, we do some damage, and in an effort to maybe not have to hurt the Eevee as much, Pikachu is attempting to paralyze it, so it'll maybe not want to fight, since it really is kind of a gentle, positive, uh, Pokemon. But Eevee is not backing down. It is critically striking at Pikachu with a tackle attack, and so the only course is to try and prevail um, through physical might, and it's going to be close because with all those defense drops, Eevee could just tackle and defeat Pikachu, but gets overconfident, doesn't go in for the other tackle, and we are victorious, leveling up to level 6, increasing in our stats, and learning a new move as well, learning Tail Whip, the move that he used against us, and defeating Sora. He's shocked that he picked the wrong Pokemon. That's what you get for stealing, I guess. And then he's saying he's going to train his Pokemon to toughen them up, and he's going to smell us all later. And in a surprising turn of events, our Pikachu, according to Professor Oak, doesn't like to be in Pokeballs and wishes to walk around beside us. And we're able to talk to it and see how it is feeling about us. So we'll do that now. And not too pleased, but we're probably just tired after all that fighting. Um, but yeah, our Nuzlocke has doesn't strictly begin until we um get Pokeballs. So Pikachu could have fainted in the lab. It can potentially faint in these other routes, although it's not ideal, but it's basically until we can get Pokeballs to capture Pokemon, all the encounters here that we find as we journey on don't count as our first encounter. It's just only valid until we get Pokeballs. So we can speak to this Pokemon Mart employee, and he's saying that in Viridian City there's Pokemon Mart. You should go visit. Here's a potion. We use to heal our Pokemon up. And so we'll journey along, and here we have our first wild encounter, and it is a Rattata. But again, we don't have Pokeballs yet, so this isn't our actual first encounter that we capture, so we can just battle this Pokemon to gain some experience. And so I suppose while we're just in this middling period, we have Pikachu here beside us. This is actually my very first Nuzlocke ever. I've always watched Nuzlockes, and I've always liked the idea of Nuzlocks. I've always thought to be an interesting challenge to the game. Typically in newer generations, like Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, X and Y, the games are a lot more fleshed out. Pokemon have better move pools, EXP share, things like that. But I figured it'd be interesting to try a Generation 1 style Nuzlocke to see how much more difficult, if anything, um, it can be. But for this episodic Nuzlocke, what I thought would be interesting is again to have these extra challenges, extra difficulty spikes to make things like grinding, to make things like um, you know just having different challenges, episode to episode to change up how things go, how the playstyle goes, things like that. And so for now, the only real challenge I have is to capture new Pokemon. That's basically the highlight of this episode. So I'm going to just quickly collect that parcel from the Pokemon Mart employee and deliver back to Professor Oak as quickly as possible. In terms of what Pokemon I would be interested in having for the Nuzlocke, I think, yeah, like I think Pidgey was always my go-to first Pokemon in like the original game when I first played him when I was like 7. I caught a Pidgey and I just trained it and trained it and trained it. It was like level 70 something, and I just used it to solo everything. Um, and we have another encounter here as we're going back. I got a level 7 Pidgey. Oh my god, didn't even know they could get that high. So, I think in like RP wise, like we just get like assailed by this like alpha Pidgey, like the absolute goat of Pidgeys attacking us on the way back. But Pikachu being electric type, we just zap it out of the sky. Oh, and we have another encounter here for another Pidgey, like level 3. Yeah, like, but we've basically just zapped the like Mafia Don Pidgey, of the Route 1 area out of the sky. Um, Genuinely didn't know they came up to that higher level, but yeah, I mean, I think even if you look ahead to the other like stats, I think you can even fight Pidgeotos that are like level 6 and lower. Like I didn't know Pidgeys could get that high, but yeah, well done to Pikachu. Type advantage and super effective hits. Getting a good bit of experience there. So we've delivered Oak's parcel, which means we can now go back and actually purchase Pokeballs from the Pokemart, which means we also get our Pokedex now in a moment. But now that we can capture Pokemon, uh, yeah, the Nuzlocke is officially beginning. And yeah, so unfortunately, Professor Oak, we're not going to be filling up much of that Pokedex. Um, But yeah, uh, you know, Sora comes back saying his Pokemon grew a lot stronger. He's also been training in the grass. Don't think he'd managed to beat a level 7 Pidgey, but that's just me. My clearly more superior Pokemon um, at work. But um, Oak's basically giving us the go ahead to take his Pokedex, his Pokemon Encyclopedia, to you know allow us to capture new Pokemon. So I will just skip ahead for now until we get to our next encounter. So after an uneventful walk back to Viridian City, I heal up Pikachu, and we're going to head over to collect some Pokeballs for the challenge to start the Nuzlocke officially and allow us to capture our first Pokemon. So, um, as I say, for Roxas, I'm kind of thinking of ways to make the story more interesting. And given that he is afraid of the water, it's nearly very fitting that he should have a electric type as his starter type Pokemon, given that they are strong against water types. But as for maybe a more unique backstory, maybe a reason why he's afraid of the water, you know, when it comes to the NPCs in the trainer's house, there is no father, just a mother figure. So in this storyline going for today, Roxas's father went missing in the sea by Pallet Town, and hence Roxas's lifelong fear of the water. And our first encounter now is a Pidgey, and given that Pikachu is able to, you know, destroy Pidgey over 3 levels higher, we're going to just throw a Pokeball to capture it, and that is our first encounter. Pidgey is captured. Now, as kind of like an anime kind of moment description of this situation, I like to imagine that, Pikachu and Roxas are walking back through Route 1, having just, destroyed this kind of alpha level 7 Pidgey. And this other Pidgey kind of seeing this trainer being so capable and, able to defeat these and dispatch these, you know, stronger foes, wishes to just literally kind of flies down, nearby Roxas, lands on like his shoulder or whatever, and it's a very simple capture. This Pidgey wants to join our team, and thinking back to like what to kind of call the Pidgey, I rolled for its nature. It's kind of a tough, kind of tough personality type, kind of a lone wolf, I suppose, in a way, but yeah, this Pidgey knows that it is, going to be able to be trained well to be a strong Pokemon with Roxas as its trainer, and rolled for gender, and it is a female Pidgey called Huntress. And so, looking at the stats there, fairly balanced across the board, with one move as Gust as its move, and then given that we now have a Pokemon that isn't level 12, and well, sorry, isn't level 7, and isn't likely to one shot any other Pokemon we come in contact with, we're going to try now and capture our second encounter. And we're going to go for the route to the right of us, or left of us rather, um, Route 24. We're going to see what kind of Pokemon we manage to find. And lo and behold, it is a Nidoran male. Level 2. So definitely Pikachu would have one-shot this for sure. But now that we have a slightly weaker Huntress, she can kind of come out and, weaken Nidoran male and allow us to hopefully secure the capture. And I suppose anime-wise, I definitely would foresee this as much more of a kind of combative encounter. I rolled for once on capture. I rolled for Nidoran's statistics, and he's kind of very kind of alpha, kind of headstrong. Needs to be the very best Pokemon, and I have it that in terms of Roxas' opinion on these Pokemon. He knows that their final forms are Nido King and Nido Queen, so I guess there must be some sort of royal um, connection to them. So he is going to nickname, well, when he can eventually spell it right, but he's going to nickname him Prince. Um, but yeah, we seem to be having some spelling issues. So we're going to have our Prince and our Huntress as our two new encounters for uh, our Nuzlocke so far. And in terms of type variety, really, really useful. Nidoran being poison and then potentially being poison ground. Very, very strong combination. And obviously a normal flying type. Fly is a pretty powerful HM move, good for transportation. It should be good for us to not be so hindered as to having to walk everywhere, which is quite nice. And to be honest, that's kind of where I'm kind of foreseeing the episode wrapping up. We're just going to heal up our Pokemon here, and we'll go into the outro to summarize, um, you know, the episode so far, the new Pokemon we've encountered, and um, what has happened thus far. But yeah, a really solid start to Nuzlocke. I mean, it's always good to get the encounters you get. I wouldn't have been too happy with the Rattata, so I am glad I got kind of Pidgey and Nidoran. But I suppose in terms of variety, it would be nice if we get all the different types that we can. I do have dupe spells active, so if we do run into other Pidgey or other Nidorans, we can just ignore them as the first encounter. But yeah, like high attack stat, high defense stat should be pretty good once we level up beyond level 2, of course. But yeah, I will move to the outro and we will see you guys for episode 2, hopefully. Thanks for watching. So, for an outro on episode 1, we have our trainer Roxas and his 3 new Pokemon, Pikaboo, Huntress, and Prince. And realistically, thus far, we've just learned that Roxas, kind of wanting to grow beyond the limitations of Pallet Town, wants to get his own Pokemon. His rival and childhood friend Sora basically bullied him out of getting the Pokemon that he actually was meant to get from Professor Oak, and instead was given a Pikachu that was caught from the wilds. Through his journey, he took down kind of a very powerful and dangerous Pidgey on Route 1, which then allowed him to recruit another Pidgey who was kind of looking to be a very strong Pokemon. And then that Pidgey helped fight and secure a third Pokemon, Nidoran the Prince. But in terms of knowledge about these 2 Pokemon, they're still fairly new to the party. But Pikachu, just wanting to make friends, is happy to have these 2 companions along for the journey. And yeah, so Pikachu, nicknamed Pikaboo, has a social nature, likes to be around people and Pokemon, and quests typically, going forward in future, any kind of quests relating to Pikachu would be fighting particular trainers or catching new Pokemon members for him to be friends with in the team. Our Pidgey, the Huntress, is kind of a tough Pokemon, likes to fight through tough battles and wants to become the most powerful flying type, hence why when it saw Roxas defeating the level 7 Pidgey, she then decided to join the team in order to train with Roxas to become the very best flying type. So that should be interesting going forward. And then finally, Nidoran Male, aka Prince, is kind of a clever tactician-y kind of fighter, and wishing to show his might by overpowering with the use of status to help enhance his overall strength rather than just strength alone. And so next episode we will be journeying with these 3 Pokemon into the realm of Kanto and beyond. And looking forward to seeing if we can get through this Nuzlocke unscathed. But no matter what happens, it'll be a good story no matter how it ends. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you around for episode 2. Thank you.